Did you know that one simple habit you do every night after age 60 could silently raise your stroke risk while you sleep? Without pain, without warning, and without waking you up? It sounds impossible, but as a brain doctor, I've watched far too many seniors go to bed feeling perfectly normal, only to open their eyes the next morning unable to speak clearly, unable to move one side of their body, or unable to keep their balance. They never saw it coming. And the frightening truth is this: the danger didn't begin in the morning. It began the night before, during their own sleep, triggered by a harmless routine they thought was safe. As we age, our brain, heart, and blood vessels become far more sensitive to small nighttime changes. And the habits we repeat, night after night, quietly shape our risk. Tonight, I'm going to reveal the hidden sleep mistake that could be putting you in danger without you ever realizing it. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 to let me know how I can make better content for you. 1. Going to bed dehydrated. If there is one nighttime habit that silently endangers older adults across America, it is this: going to bed even slightly dehydrated. Most seniors don't realize how often this happens. You skip that last glass of water because you're afraid of waking up to use the bathroom. You take your water pill in the afternoon and feel dry by evening. Or you simply don't feel thirsty the way you used to, one of the most overlooked signs of aging. And yet, this single habit quietly turns the nighttime hours, the hours you expect to be safest, into a period of hidden danger. After 60, your body handles fluids differently. Your kidneys filter more slowly, your blood vessels stiffen, and your thirst response is less reliable. This means even mild dehydration causes your blood to become thicker, heavier, and more concentrated. It moves sluggishly through vessels that are already narrower from age. And when blood slows down like that, it triggers strokes. It forms blood clots, the kind that can lodge themselves in a tiny artery of the brain and shut down speech, movement, or memory in a matter of seconds. I have seen this pattern countless times. A patient goes to bed feeling perfectly fine. No chest pain, no headache, no warning. But because they were dehydrated, their blood thickened through the night, while their blood pressure naturally dipped during deep sleep. This combination, thick blood and low pressure, is one of the most dangerous states for the aging brain. It gives clots a chance to form quietly, often in the early morning hours when circulation is at its slowest. And by sunrise, the damage has already been done. I still remember a patient from New Mexico, 74 years old, who ended up in my care after waking up unable to move his right arm. He lived alone, stayed active, and believed he was doing everything right. But he had a habit of drinking very little water after dinner because he hated getting up at night. Over time, this routine left him mildly dehydrated almost every evening. The morning he suffered his stroke, his lab work showed concentrated blood markers, clear evidence that his body had been fighting low hydration for months. His stroke wasn't random. It was built silently, night after night, from something he never imagined could harm him. Dehydration also affects the brain directly. When the body lacks water, the brain loses some of its protective fluid volume, making delicate vessels more vulnerable to strain. Older adults often experience early signs without recognizing them: dry mouth overnight, dizziness when standing up in the morning, cramps in the calves, or feeling unusually tired upon waking. These are not normal signs of aging. They are warnings, small signals that the brain is struggling with reduced circulation during the night. What makes this issue so frightening is that most seniors believe dehydration must feel dramatic: extreme thirst, dry lips, fatigue. But for older adults, dehydration is often silent. By the time you feel thirsty, your blood is already thicker than it should be, your vessels already under strain, and your brain already at risk. That is why even a simple act like avoiding water after 6 p.m. can have consequences far greater than you realize. But here's the truth you need to hear: preventing this danger doesn't require complicated changes, it only requires awareness. A small glass of water an hour before bed, adjusting diuretic timing under your doctor's guidance, noticing the signs your body whispers to you instead of waiting until it screams. Because while going to bed dehydrated seems harmless, the consequences can be life changing. And sadly, dehydration is just the first nighttime habit putting seniors in danger, because the next mistake is something millions of older Americans do every single night without thinking, yet it quietly restricts blood flow to the brain in ways far more serious than most people realize. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, please comment number one below to let me know you're with me. Now let's move on to point number two. Two, sleeping in a fully flat position. For most of your life, lying flat on your back probably felt like the most natural, comfortable way to sleep. But after 60, the body you trust is not the body you used to have. Your blood vessels are stiffer, your neck structure has changed, and your heart and brain rely on more delicate pressure balances during the night. That's why sleeping completely flat, a habit that seems so harmless, can quietly create conditions that it triggers strokes, it forms blood clots, and it interferes with the steady blood flow your aging brain desperately depends on while you sleep. As a brain doctor, I see this mistake more often than almost any other. I've watched seniors, good people who take their medications, walk daily, eat healthy, go to bed in a perfectly flat position, and wake up disoriented, dizzy, or unable to coordinate their steps. Most of them never connect the dots, but the truth is uncomfortably simple. Lying fully flat can reduce blood circulation to the brain in older adults, especially those with cervical spine degeneration, chronic hypertension, sleep apnea, or hardening of the arteries. After 60, the natural curve of the neck shifts, and the vertebral arteries, the small but critical vessels running up the spine to supply the back of the brain, become more easily compressed. When you lie flat, with your chin subtly tilted upward or your neck slightly extended, those arteries can narrow just enough to reduce blood flow during the night. You don't feel it. It doesn't hurt, but your brain notices. It is quietly starved of oxygen and nutrients for hours. The brain does not tolerate this kind of slow suffocation. When blood flow decreases, the vessels try to compensate by tightening. That tightening increases stress on already fragile arterial walls. And if circulation slows too much, the blood inside those vessels becomes more stagnant. This is the moment danger grows, because stagnant blood is far more likely to clot. Those tiny clots, invisible and silent, can break loose and travel upward. Sometimes they dissolve. Other times, especially in older adults with stiffened vessels, they lodge in a narrow artery of the brain. And that is how a person can fall asleep as themselves and wake up a stranger, unable to recall the simplest words or lift their own hand. I once treated a woman from Indiana, 78 years old, who had suffered 2 episodes of sudden morning confusion. Her scans showed small recent blockages in the circulation at the back of her brain. She insisted she did nothing unusual before bed, But when I asked about her sleep posture, she admitted she lay completely flat every night because she believed it was good for her spine. What she didn't know was that her aging neck, with mild arthritis and narrowed arteries, couldn't maintain normal blood flow in that position. Raising her upper body by just a few inches changed everything. Her symptoms stopped. She never had another episode. Many seniors dismiss these things, believing discomfort or stiffness is just part of aging. But these aches and pressures, especially around the neck, shoulders, or back of the head, often reflect reduced circulation, a warning that the body is no longer compensating the way it once did. And every night spent in a flat position quietly pushes the brain closer to a state where oxygen falls, pressure fluctuates, and the environment becomes ripe for clot formation. The good news is that correction is simple. A wedge pillow, a slightly elevated bed frame, or even a firmer pillow can help the head and neck stay aligned in a way that protects blood flow. Small adjustments, but life preserving ones. Yet, this is only one of the nighttime dangers most older adults never recognize. And the next mistake is even more deceptive because millions of people think they're doing the right thing, all while unknowingly lowering their blood pressure too far and putting their brain at risk in the dead of night. 3. Going to sleep after a sudden blood pressure drop. For many older adults, taking blood pressure medication in the evening becomes such a familiar routine that they never question it. You swallow your pill, turn off the lights, and assume your body will handle the rest. But after 60, when blood vessels stiffen and the body's internal pressure controls weaken, this habit can quietly push your nighttime blood pressure far lower than your brain can safely tolerate. What feels like a responsible choice may, in truth, place you on the edge of a medical cliff. Because when pressure drops too deeply during sleep, it triggers strokes, it forms blood clots, and it creates the perfect environment for a morning emergency that no one ever saw coming. The danger begins with something simple: the natural nightly dip in blood pressure. All humans experience this, but older adults, especially those on multiple heart medications, can experience a much sharper drop. When you add a potent evening dose of antihypertensive medication on top of the body's normal nighttime decrease, blood pressure can fall to levels that would never be acceptable during the day. And unlike younger adults, seniors cannot always compensate. The baroreceptors, the sensors that regulate blood pressure, become less sensitive with age. The arteries, especially those in the neck and brain, lose their flexibility. They cannot widen quickly enough to keep blood flowing at the rate the brain needs. When that flow slows too much, the brain enters a state of quiet suffocation. Neurons struggle to receive oxygen. Vessel walls become strained. Blood grows more sluggish, and sluggish blood invites clotting. These tiny clots, formed when circulation is too slow and pressure too low, can travel silently through the bloodstream. Some dissolve, others do not. And when one of those clots reaches a narrow artery deep in the brain, the result can be devastating. One moment you are sleeping peacefully, the next your speech is slurred, your arm won't lift, or your vision blurs. Because while you slept, a clot cut off the circulation that your brain depends on for life. I cared for a man from Virginia, 72 years old, who had taken his blood pressure pills at night for more than a decade. His doctor originally prescribed them that way when he was in his 50s, a time when his body handled medication differently. But as he aged, he noticed new symptoms: lightheadedness when getting up, morning fatigue, occasional confusion. None of these struck him as dangerous. He simply believed they were part of aging. Then one morning he collapsed beside his bed. A scan revealed a small but significant ischemic stroke. His blood pressure during the night had fallen to levels so low that parts of his brain were barely receiving blood. The clot that formed was small, barely the size of a sesame seed, but it was enough to steal his balance and his confidence in a single moment. When we shifted his medication to morning dosing under close supervision, the near fainting episodes vanished. These stories aren't rare. They are far more common than most people realize because seniors often assume that lower blood pressure is always good. But when you're older, too low is just as dangerous as too high. The body you live in now is different from the one you had at a 40 or 50. Your brain no longer has the same buffer, the same margin for error. If your nighttime blood pressure dips too far, the brain pays the price. And yet, this isn't the only nighttime danger hiding in plain sight. There is another mistake, one that feels comforting, cozy, even harmless, that quietly raises your stroke risk by warming your body, thickening your blood, and straining your heart in ways most seniors never suspect. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're here. Now let's keep going with point number 4. 4. Using heavy blankets or overheating the room. Many older adults across America slip under a thick blanket each night, believing it brings comfort, warmth, and security. But after age 60, the body's relationship with temperature changes dramatically, and what once felt soothing can quietly become dangerous. A warm room may calm your nerves, but your aging heart and brain experience something very different. When nighttime heat rises too high, whether from a heavy comforter, an electric blanket, or an overheated bedroom, the body begins losing fluid through sweat. The blood thickens, circulation slows, and the conditions develop for something that every senior fears. It triggers strokes, it forms blood clots, and it destabilizes the very systems meant to protect you while you sleep. Older adults often don't realize how easily their bodies dehydrate in warm environments. Aging skin loses moisture rapidly, sweat glands function differently, and medications, especially diuretics, beta blockers, and certain heart drugs, disrupt the body's natural ability to regulate heat. When you sleep under a heavy blanket, your core temperature can rise by several degrees. You may not feel hot. Older adults often have a reduced heat perception, but inside the body, blood is thickening as fluid leaves the bloodstream and evaporates through the skin. Thickened blood moves slowly through stiffened arteries, especially those that feed the brain. This slow movement, combined with nighttime drops in blood pressure, creates an atmosphere where small clots form easily and travel with deadly silence. I cared for a woman in Ohio, 79 years old, who always slept with a heated blanket because she disliked the cold. Over time, she began waking with headaches, dry mouth, and morning dizziness, signs of dehydration and overnight blood pressure instability. One winter morning, she woke with numbness in her hand and difficulty speaking. Scans later revealed she'd had a small ischemic stroke during the night. Her blood tests showed she was mildly dehydrated. Her sodium levels were low, and her blood was unusually concentrated. She didn't smoke, didn't drink, ate well, and exercised. Her only mistake was sleeping too warm, too often, without realizing what it was doing to her circulation. Science has long shown that the brain rests best in cooler temperatures. A bedroom set between 65 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit helps stabilize blood pressure, maintain steady heart rhythms, and support oxygen flow. But when the temperature rises above that range, your cardiovascular system works harder. The heart beats faster to release heat. Blood vessels widen and then constrict. These swings create turbulence inside fragile vessels, especially in older adults with hypertension or a history of artery narrowing. And turbulence is dangerous because when blood hits the vessel walls too forcefully and irregularly, tiny injuries can form, and the body rushes to repair them by forming clots. Most dissolve, but some travel upward, lodging in a vessel too small to pass through. Those are the clots that steal language, movement, and independence in an instant. This is why even seemingly harmless habits like piling on extra blankets or sleeping with the heat turned high can quietly shift your brain into a risk zone. The danger isn't dramatic, it's slow, silent, and easy to overlook. You won't feel the moment your blood thickens. You won't feel the instant a tiny clot forms. You may simply wake one morning with your world changed forever. But what frightens me most as a physician is how many seniors believe night warmth is necessary because they feel cold easily. That sensation can be misleading. Often it's poor circulation, not actual cold, that makes older adults reach for more heat, even though more heat is exactly what their bodies cannot handle. And yet, the warmth itself is not the only nighttime trap. There is another innocent looking habit, something millions of seniors do every night after dinner, that affects the brain in an even more surprising way, silently increasing stroke risk from deep inside the digestive system. 5. Sleeping. After a heavy evening meal. Across America, many older adults enjoy their biggest meal at the end of the day. It feels comforting to sit down to a warm dinner, enjoy familiar foods, and end the evening with a satisfied stomach. But after age 60, the body reacts very differently to nighttime eating. What once felt harmless can quietly become dangerous because going to bed with a full stomach places enormous strain on your aging digestive system, your heart, and most importantly, your brain. As a neurologist, I've seen far too many seniors experience frightening morning symptoms they never linked to the meal they ate just hours before. They had no idea that a heavy dinner followed by sleep can create the perfect storm where it triggers strokes, it forms blood clots, and it silently disrupts the circulation their brain depends on through the night. When you lie down after a large meal, especially one rich in fats, meat, fried foods, or acidic ingredients, your digestive system slows to a crawl. The stomach remains full longer, pushing upward on the diaphragm and increasing pressure on the chest. For many seniors, this triggers silent reflux, a form of acid reflux that happens without burning or pain. Instead, small amounts of acid rise into the throat and airways throughout the night, irritating them and disrupting breathing patterns. Most older adults never notice it. They simply wake up with a dry mouth, cough, or hoarse voice, unaware that their oxygen levels dipped repeatedly while they slept. Every drop in oxygen, even small ones, forces blood vessels to tighten. Tightened vessels increase pressure and turbulence, especially in arteries already stiffened by age. Over time, these repeated nightly episodes inflame the delicate lining inside the vessels. And when that lining becomes irritated, the body responds by forming tiny clots to protect the injured area. Most of these clots dissolve harmlessly, but in an older adult whose vessels are narrow and whose blood flow naturally slows during the night, some clots travel upward, reaching the brain. All it takes is one of them lodging in a fragile artery to change a life forever. I once treated a retired truck driver from Missouri, 76 years old, who suffered a mild stroke just before sunrise. He was healthy, active, and proud of maintaining a balanced lifestyle. But he had one habit he never questioned: a large late dinner every night, often finishing around 9 p.m. He would feel sleepy afterward and go straight to bed. Over time, his wife noticed he coughed during the night, but neither connected it to his meals. When he awoke one morning unable to speak clearly, the truth came out. His scan showed a tiny clot had blocked the left side of his brain.
Blood tests revealed signs of inflammation and nighttime oxygen instability. His reflux episodes, silent, painless, unnoticed, were triggering a chain reaction inside his body every single night. Heavy meals also cause blood to pool in the digestive organs, pulling circulation away from the brain. In younger adults, the heart compensates. In older adults, the heart may struggle, especially for those already managing high blood pressure, diabetes, or heart disease. The combination of reduced oxygen, slowed blood flow, and increased inflammation forms a hidden threat that builds slowly, silently, and predictably. Most seniors miss the early signs: waking groggy, morning headaches, unusual fatigue, a feeling of pressure in the head, or difficulty concentrating. These are not simply signs of age, they are warnings that the brain was not well supported during the night. The solution is simple but powerful. Eat dinner earlier, keep portions lighter, and give your body 3 to 4 hours to digest before lying down. These changes protect circulation, stabilize nighttime oxygen, and help prevent the chain reaction that leads to clot formation. But as troubling as heavy meals can be, there is another nightly habit that threatens the aging brain even more. A mistake millions of seniors make right in their own living rooms, often without realizing it. And it quietly restricts blood flow in ways far more dangerous than most people imagine.
6. Falling asleep in a recliner or couch. Across countless American living rooms, a familiar scene plays out every evening. The TV glows softly, a favorite show plays in the background, and an older adult slowly drifts off to sleep in a recliner or on a soft couch. It feels harmless, even comforting. The gentle hum of the television, the warmth of the blanket, the slight rocking of the chair. But after age 60, falling asleep in a recliner or curled on a sofa becomes far more dangerous than most people realize. The position that feels safe and relaxing on the surface can quietly change the way blood travels to your brain, squeezing and bending the very vessels that keep you alive. And as circulation slows and pressure shifts, a terrifying chain reaction begins, one where it triggers strokes, it forms blood clots, and it robs the brain of the oxygen it needs to make it through the night without injury. When an older adult sleeps in a recliner, the head tends to fall forward or tilt awkwardly to the side. The neck bends in a way that compresses the vertebral arteries, two small but essential vessels running along the spine that carry blood to the back of the brain. These arteries are remarkably sensitive in seniors. Years of arthritis, stiffness, and natural narrowing make them vulnerable to even small amounts of pressure, and in the recliner's slumped position, they become partially pinched. The blood flow doesn't stop completely, it just slows. But slowing is enough to create danger. Slow blood becomes turbulent. Turbulent blood irritates vessel walls, and irritated vessel walls encourage clot formation. Many seniors also sleep with their torso semi-folded forward in a recliner. This reduces lung expansion, meaning they take shallower breaths. With every shallow breath, oxygen levels dip. The heart begins working harder to compensate, pushing thicker, less oxygenated blood through stiff arteries. During the day, the body fights to maintain balance, but at night, especially when the person has already dozed off into a deep, unmonitored sleep, the balance fails. The brain simply cannot tolerate hours of uneven oxygen and reduced circulation. I once treated a retired machinist from Oregon, 80 years old, who insisted he slept best in his recliner. For years, he avoided his bed because of arthritis pain, believing the chair supported his spine better. But his wife noticed something troubling. Every morning, He woke up confused, more forgetful, or unsteady on his feet. He brushed it off as aging. Then one morning, he couldn't lift his left arm. A scan revealed a small ischemic stroke. His sleeping position had compressed his neck arteries for years, starving parts of his brain every night until finally a clot formed. A clot created in the silence of his own living room. Nothing dramatic. No fall, no warning. Just slow, steady damage caused by a posture he never imagined could hurt him. Couches are no better. Most seniors bend their spine sideways or curl their legs under them, positions that twist the torso and compromise both lung expansion and blood vessel alignment. The brain ends up receiving blood that is lower in oxygen, slower in movement, and more likely to clot. Morning headaches, dizziness when standing, numb hands, and sudden fatigue are early warning signs, not of age but of nighttime circulation failure. The tragedy is that this danger is 100% preventable. The brain needs alignment, oxygen, and steady blood flow. A recliner cannot offer that. A couch cannot offer that. Only a properly supported bed can. And yet, millions of seniors unknowingly put themselves at risk by treating these furniture pieces as substitutes for a real sleep environment. But as frightening as this mistake is, there is an even more dangerous nighttime habit, one that affects the way you breathe, the way your heart works, and the way your brain receives oxygen. And many seniors don't even realize they suffer from it until a stroke steals their first warning sign. 7. Ignoring sleep apnea, just snoring. Of all the nighttime dangers older Americans face, none is as silent, as underestimated, or as deadly as sleep apnea. Many seniors dismiss their loud snoring as an annoyance their spouse complains about, or they chalk it up to just getting older. But what they don't realize is that snoring, especially loud, choking, gasping snoring, is often the body's cry for help. After age 60, the muscles in the throat weaken, the airway becomes more collapsible, and the brain's control of breathing becomes less responsive. This means that what feels like simple snoring may actually be dozens, even hundreds of nighttime episodes where breathing stops entirely. And each pause in breath is not just a pause. It is a moment where the brain is suffocating, pressure is rising, and the heart is fighting to keep blood flowing. Over time, this pattern becomes the perfect environment where it triggers strokes, it forms blood clots, and it damages the brain in ways that may never fully heal. When an older adult stops breathing during sleep, even for just 10 or 15 seconds, the oxygen level in the blood drops dramatically. The brain senses the danger and releases stress hormones like adrenaline to force the person to gasp awake. This reaction saves your life in the moment, but it comes with a cost. The sudden surges in blood pressure, the choking breaths, the rapid heartbeat, and the repeated micro-awakenings strain the cardiovascular system night after night. For seniors who already have high blood pressure, diabetes, or narrowing of the arteries, the consequences compound quickly. The vessels inside the brain become inflamed. The lining of those vessels weakens. Blood becomes more turbulent, and in that turbulent flow, clots begin to form silently. I remember a retired school principal from Iowa, 73 years old, who came to my clinic after a small stroke left him with weakness in his hand. He had always snored loudly, but he joked about it like most seniors do. His wife said she often nudged him when he stopped breathing at night, but he always laughed it off. After his stroke, we conducted a sleep study. In a single hour, he stopped breathing 38 times. 38 episodes where oxygen plummeted, his brain panicked, his blood pressure spiked, and his heart raced to keep up. His stroke didn't appear out of nowhere. It was built slowly night after night by apnea episodes he never took seriously. This condition also robs seniors of deep sleep, which the brain desperately needs for memory, balance, and emotional stability. Many older adults wake up exhausted, foggy, or irritable, blaming age instead of recognizing the truth. Their brain was fighting for oxygen all night long. Others experience morning headaches, dry mouth, nighttime trips to the bathroom, or sudden awakenings with pounding heartbeats, classic signs of apnea that are too often ignored. The most frightening part is that sleep apnea is frequently first diagnosed after a stroke. For many seniors, the stroke is the first warning sign. That's because the long-term damage apnea causes, vessel inflammation, blood pressure surges, oxygen deprivation, clot formation, accumulates quietly. You don't feel the danger until it strikes. But when it strikes, it can steal your speech, your mobility, your independence, or even your life. Yet there is hope. Sleep apnea is treatable. And the moment you treat it, stroke risk drops dramatically. Devices like CPAP, lifestyle adjustments, weight changes, even sleeping in a slightly elevated position, all of these can restore nighttime breathing and protect the brain. But as dangerous as sleep apnea is, it's only part of the bigger picture. Because when you look at all 7 nightly mistakes together, a powerful truth emerges, one that older adults must understand if they want to protect their memory, their mobility, and their independence.
Final reflection: protecting your brain while you sleep. By now, you've seen the hidden truth that so many older Americans never hear. The hours you spend asleep are not a break from danger. They are one of the most vulnerable times for your aging brain. After 60, your circulation slows, your vessels stiffen, your oxygen levels fluctuate more easily, and your heart no longer compensates the way it once did. This means even the smallest nighttime habit, one glass of water you didn't drink, one heavy blanket, one late meal, one slumped position in a recliner, one episode of snoring you brushed aside, can quietly shift the balance inside your body. And when that balance shifts, the consequences can be devastating. These are the conditions where blood thickens, vessels tighten, oxygen drops, and the chain reaction begins. The kind that it triggers strokes, it forms blood clots, and it steals from you the very things you've spent a lifetime building: your independence, your clarity, your identity. The greatest tragedy is that most seniors never recognize the danger until it is too late. They wake one morning unable to speak clearly or lift an arm, or they notice their memory slipping faster than it should. They assume it came out of nowhere, but strokes rarely appear without warning. They grow silently in the dark, shaped by habits so familiar that we forget how powerful they are. Yet, the most empowering truth is this: every single one of these risks is changeable. You don't need expensive treatments or complicated routines. You need awareness. You need consistency. You need to understand that the aging brain is delicate, but also incredibly responsive when you treat it with care. Drink modestly before bed. Keep your room cool. Eat earlier. Sleep aligned. Return to your bed instead of your recliner. Protect your oxygen. And above all, never ignore snoring or nighttime breathing issues. They're not jokes, they're warnings. Because you deserve more than survival. You deserve mornings where you wake up steady, clear, and fully yourself. You deserve years ahead filled with memory, balance, conversation, and the freedom to live life on your own terms. Your brain has carried you through every chapter of your life. Now it's your turn to protect it, especially in the quiet hours when it cannot protect itself. And if you're ready, I can help you take the next step. A complete, simple, nighttime brain protecting checklist designed specifically for Americans over 60. Would you like me to create it for you? These lessons are meant to inspire you to live fully and authentically. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect and share one thing you've learned and plan to apply in your own life. Let's support each other on this journey toward embracing these truths. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and here's to living life on your own terms.